to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.
Okay, you're back. Well, I guess that means it's time for another first chapter, and I gotta plug that thing out. Here we go. I am Rodney V. Smith. The V is for validation because, that's what we're all looking for at some point. And I'm a Wattpad star and author, and also winner of the Wattie Award in 2018 for my book, The Cane Fuel Killer, which is available on Wattpad, so make sure to check it out. Now, for Black History Month in Canada and US, Wattpad has compiled a list of books that feature Black authors and also celebrate Black stories. That's the whole hashtag there. Celebrate Black stories. I'm using that list as well as some of my own selections to bring these stories into focus. What's the best way to do that? Well, each night I read the first chapter of each of these books just so you guys can get an idea of what the books are about, and I pretty much let the work speak for itself. This is usually my first time reading, so you get pretty much everything, all of the mistakes, all of my flubs, and since it's live, sorry about that. Sometimes a few mistakes happen here or there, but tonight should be good and smooth, right? Okay, so tonight's author is Token Black Girl. You can find her on Wattpad. The links are down below, so you can just go and check that out and follow along. The book is called Holding Up the Sun. So remember, links are in the description. Okay, let us go to Okay, you know what? I should have had the book. Okay, let me just find the synopsis so that I can read it. Remember, it's on Wattpad. So, one other thing is also under the Celebrate Black Stories tab on the Wattpad front page, so you can actually look there and find it quite easily. So, Holding Up the Sun. Okay, that's kind of hard to find when you do a search. Okay, Token Black Girl. Okay, here we go. That's a lot easier when you actually have it up. Okay, so synopsis of Holding Up the Sun by Token Black Girl. On the surface, St. John's University is like any other, well, not counting the witches and wolves and complicated social maze that green-haired witch Zora Banks is slowly learning to navigate. Confronted by the deep-rooted social cliques, an odd pair of witches, and a sense of not quite belonging, Zora quickly makes enemies at the school, namely the Iron Fist ruler of the school, Morgan White, and his party animal boyfriend. Little does Zora know, underneath the stringent social order and species-exclusive cliques lies an underbelly of street racing, gambling, and an illicit wolfsbane trade. At the heart of it all, second-year wolf Kai Nishiota, a raven-haired racer who never has much to say until he meets Zora. Together, the two juggle an infuriating but electric connection to the other, a controversial arson that shakes St. John's to the core, and supernatural tensions with worldly consequences. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So let's get over and to the story and start reading. Here we go. Okay, so this is the summary. So we're gonna skip that and head to the first chapter. So this is Holding Up the Sun, Chapter 1. Beginning of Part 1. Saul. From Eden by Hosier. Oh, song lyrics. There's something so tragic about you. Something so magic about you. Chapter 1. Enya Herrera descends like stardust, curling a fleshy, tanned arm around Zora's wide-planed form as she steps from train to platform. Zora heaves a plaid duffel bag over her shoulder as she goes. Under the mid-morning sun, leaking through the tunnel opening, Enya's skirt is starlit and her eyes sparkling, kind, staring at Zora with the kind of soft-boiled concern usually not reserved for people you're meeting for the first time. But Zora will learn Enya doesn't do things by halves, carrying her responsibility as orientation leader like an anchor on her shoulder. Enya tucks her head into Zora's. They're the same height, full lips twisting into a smile, something sweet and welcoming as she speaks. They told me to look for someone with green hair. Her voice leaves her in wisp, melodic, sonorant. Gonna assume that's you unless there's somebody else. Anya swivels her head around playfully, looking around for someone other than the girl with forest green locks and gold highlights smeared like honey against the angles of her dark skin. Nope, Anya laughs out. Nope, Zora laughs out, popping the P at the end. She gestures toward the hair falling across her forehead, trailing down her back. A green curtain draped across her form. Definitely me. Since their first email exchange, there's been a familiarity between the two, and again now in the way their bodies angle toward each other. It's a witch thing, probably. Careful not to jostle Enya's arm looped around the center of her back, Zora sets her bag down on the platform. In jest, she asks, Enya Herrera? 'Cause I'm really hoping you are. Enya tightens, then unloops the curl of her arm, swiveling on her heels to face her. She sticks a hand out. Zora feels oddly like they are past that point. At your service, Crystal and Glamour Witch. Green Witch, Zora responds, curving Enya's hand into her own. She lifts an eyebrow. But you already knew that. It was in the assignment sheet. Enya nods enthusiastically and reaches for Zora's duffel. Walk and talk. We've got a bus to catch. Zora wants to say, I can do that myself. Wants to wind her deep brown hands around the handles of her bag and snatch it back. But Enya has already taken off, breezing towards the mass of people streaming out of the tunnel exit. Sighing, Zora follows quickly behind, biting at Enya's heels, trying desperately to match her pace. Her breath, worn, ticks then catches in her throat. Zora Banks Boudreaux, Enya starts when she's caught up beside her, throwing a quick glance her way. She speaks as though reading off a list. Green Witch and second-year transfer student from New Orleans. You're a Taurus, about to be 20. Herbology and alchemy, right? Zora nods, nearly stumbling over her feet. Close, herbology and potionary. And I'm from Mary's Creek, actually, which is an hour out from the city. Population 800. Zora turns shrewd. Ever hear of it? Nope. Like Zora, she pops the P at the end. Ever hear of Santa Maria, Texas? Zora's brows furrow, forming a crown in the middle of her forehead. No. Population 15,000, but it feels a lot smaller when everyone's Mexican and likes to talk. Everybody knows everybody, you know? Believe me, Zora says, letting out a beleaguered sigh that lingers in the air. I know. They arrive at the shuttle, a bus decked out in the school's color of red and white, and the name St. John's emblazoned across the side in stocky print. They fall into the short line that's formed. So these take us straight to campus, right? If you mailed any luggage, it's already in your room, but you still have to go pick up your key and check in. They inch closer to the front. Your roommate may or may not be here already. After that, we have about 30 minutes to chill before lunch. Right. Got it. This information was all in the pre-orientation packet they sent her, the one tucked and folded painstakingly into Zora's side bag, but hearing it from Enya's mouth, smoothly spoken and confident, reassures Zora. Enya hip bumps her. Excited? A little. A smile creeps into Zora's face, betraying the nonchalance in her voice. Okay, a lot. Everything's just so different. You have no idea, Enya says, stepping onto the bus. Zora follows closely behind. Say what you want about St. John's, but can't call us boring. You'll see. No, I believe you, Zora says, retrieving her luggage from Enya. They sit opposite each other, Zora curling her back into the cushion of the bus seats as a slight girl shifts beside her. Zora scoffs. But this weather! She meets Enya's eyes across the way, and they roll their eyes in unison. People up north live like this? You're talking to a girl from South Texas. Tell me about it. The shuttle begins to inch forward. Silence, comfortable and honey-coated, falls between them. Like this, sat opposite each other, with northwestern sun bleeding through the bus windows. Zora finally gets a good look at Enya, skin gleaming back at her in hues of caramel, and her eyebrows, thick and arched, forming a crown on her face. Her eyes, almond-shaped and nearly black in color, shine. Freckles dot her skin like points on a map. A green lock creeps into Zora's vision, obscuring the vision of Enya, smiling back at her, a pair of dimples cratering her full cheeks. Behind Enya, urban New Jersey landscape passes in a blur, bleeding into a pastoral scene as they approach campus. In motion, Zora's eyes begin to lull, but she's woken by a sudden halt. Her head whips to the front where an all-black motorcade moves slowly, blocking their passage. She starts, accent thick with sleep. This happen often? Anya rolls her eyes. Ignore them. It's just some self-important student getting dropped off. Happens every year. She scoffs. I hear it's worse at the other consortium schools. Beside them, a raven-haired boy speaks up. Harton's the worst. His slanted eyes, heavy-lidded and droopy, give the impression of nonchalance, and so too does the drape of his posture, syrupy and casual, his slouching figure severe and stunning in all black. Besides, tone sardonic as he continues, what's a wolf to do? You'd know better than anyone. A gold chain glints at the base of his collarbone. Luckily, unlike Harton, Anya says, smirking, lifting at the corner of her lips, St. John's has enough witches to even out the sheer amount of wolf drama around here. He arches an eyebrow. Fine. Anya's eyes shine with mischief. We have our own drama too. Zora's face must reflect the confusion she feels, face corkscrewing into a question mark, because the unknown boy laughs and Enya rushes to explain. Her eyes flicker to the front of the bus where a few administrators sit. Tell you later. Listening ears. Zora nods, her interest piqued. Slowly, the bus rolls to a stop in a loop of other shuttles. The doors open in a whoosh as people begin to climb off. Zora and Enya follow. The stranger, and who is presumably the new student he's guiding, rush off somewhere before Zora can introduce herself. Now, tonight's reading is not sponsored, but I need a little bit of sip of this, so bubbly. Let's continue. Zora nods, returning her attention to Enya, lost for words. So remember what I said about picking up your key before lunch? Enya takes silence as agreement. I have to go get some orientation stuff from Basquiat lobby, but I'll meet you at your dorm. Miller Brown is right ahead, then take a left. It's right by the wolf grounds. You'll know it when you see it. Zora barely stutters out a thanks before Enya is leaving the way she came, with a warm hand slung over Zora's shoulder, stars in her eyes, and an aura about her that reminds Zora just a little bit of home. Zora knows night like black molasses, that sweet, dripping blackness, a vision of sweetness that flows over sight and rests warm and slow in the mouth. She knows the place where night and day meet just under the horizon, joined together by the cold, elusive hands of sun and moon. She knows day like cotton candy melting in her mouth. She doesn't know this. A sun that greets her like a stranger, or the unfamiliar world that rises to meet her. Doesn't know the blue shaded heat and beginning tendrils of fall that curl around her bare legs like water snakes in the summer. The soft breeze is dry, not wet and cloying, the way it is back home in Louisiana. New Jersey sun greets her in a whisper, peeking out between clouds and sprouting against her dark skin, a honey-brown phantom. Zora breathes in, crisp air slipping into her dry mouth, a dream as she follows the directions Enya gave her. This is a new kind of warmth. Foreign. Around her, the world spills over, families on all sides rushing to and fro as they escort babe-toothed children to dorms, gold pendants gleaming under the sun, family tattoos speaking out on bony wrists. Zora is the odd man out as she traverses the fray of people, alone with one anxious hand twined around her bag and the other around her chaotically pumping heart. Her feet land heavily on cobblestone as she marches forward. Right ahead, then take a left. She peers down at the bag in her hand, the weight of family grimoires weighing her down. Silently, she casts her protection and lightning charm, instantly feeling her body's gravity ease. In the haze that comes with charm casting, she walks clear into a stranger from the In the haze that comes with charm casting, she walks clear into a stranger from the side, the impact causing them to stumble into each other, and him to topple forward, legs curling at the knee as he tries to catch himself. At the collision, stars collect in her eyes. Dazed, the world melts away like spun sugar. Everything. Being so far from home, being alone. It's easy to forget with light bursting in her eyes and a supernova exploding across her body. She rushes to apologize as he climbs to his feet, assisted by the large hands of a friend by his side. Zora barely has time to gather her bearings before the stranger is glaring down at her, anger sharp in his eyes. In all white, the sun casting across his dark features and angled cheekbones in a halo makes him look like an angel. His jaw clenches. A very pissed off angel. "Look what you did!" he spits, the words falling bitter and pointed out of full lips. He gestures down at the torn knees of his tight white jeans. His silk blouse waves in the wind as he moves. "Don't you watch where you're going?" "Just distracted is all," Zora says, adjusting the strap of her bag in her hands. The words fall out of her mouth, slow, brined, and twang thick. She ignores the anger in his eyes. She shrugs. "I can cast a stitching spell if you like." "No," he chews out. "It's fine," he says, his eyes piercing, pointed. "Say it's not fine at all." "Babe," comes the light voice. If the first man is an angel, his boyfriend is a devil, albeit an equally fashionable and stunning one, cutting a lofty, sharp form as he rests a veiny brown arm around his boyfriend's waist, steadying him. Piercings dot his ears and nose, curly brown hair streaked curls falling across his forehead, and his skin the color of toffee. His eyes gleam back at her, warm and apologetic. "We were on our way to the room anyway, right? You can change when we're there," he says, voice deep and soothing. At the tender, soft in his eyes, Zora feels like an intruder. She averts her gaze as they share whispered words between each other. The second man turns his attention to her. "Don't worry about it, okay?" Stunned, her mouth falls open, but no words come out. He smiles gently at her, tossing out a "have a nice day" as he tightens his hand around his partner's waist, and they retreat. Bewildered, Zora stifles a hysterical giggle as she watches them leave in a daze. Did that just happen? Shaking her head, she moves forward, one determined foot in front of the other. A cacophony of noise rises as she resumes her trek. The sound of helicopter parents and suitcases being rolled over uneven stone sidewalks resonate in her ears. Soon her form is being dwarfed by the looming centuries-old brick structure of Miller Brown Hall, housing specifically for sophomore witches, with some wolves on the first floor. Or at least, that's what the university website told her as she scrolled religiously over the summer, committing any and all pertinent details to memory. She lets out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. There, clogging her throat. Before that chance, unfortunate encounter. There, maybe even before she stepped off the train, and before that, off the tarmac at Newark. Magic whispers down her body. In the air, there's a jumbled voice, the scent of rain. She looks up. The sky is clear. Before her, 5 reaping stories of antiquated brick and sprawling vines of ivy stare back at her. Miller Brown Residential Hall is no more than a playground for the wild, embraced by the sprawling wolf grounds just behind the building. Zora, raised on the bank of a river in rural Louisiana, already feels at home, surrounded by overgrown shrubbery and green. Until she walks in. Technically, she knows the schools of Crane's Consortium are the 3 most prestigious and supernatural institutions in the witching world. But there's a difference between knowing, i.e. reading about it on Witches Weekly, and seeing it for herself. Walking into a lobby encased in so much luxury that she's sure the rug beneath her feet costs as much, if not more, than the already steep tuition. But Zora is not one to be daunted. With newfound vigor, she approaches the welcome desk. "How you doing?" she asks, greeting dripping off her tongue, familiar and well-worn. Southern hospitality melts like a soft-serve lemonade in her tongue. Here to collect my key. Zora Banks Boudreaux. Just Zora Banks, if that don't work. She stares at the hands of the worker, strong and bronze, sorting through small manila packets. Ah, here you are. Room 213. Elevator's right around the corner. Strong hands gesture to a walkway. Have a nice day, miss. Excuse me again. She returns to farewell, collecting her key and moves forward with a grit, toying with her bottom lip, a woman on a mission. Her surroundings blurring into the background, bleeding into the one... Let me start that again. She returns to farewell, collecting her key and moves forward with grit, toying her bottom lip, a woman on a mission. Her surroundings blur into the background, bleeding into one gold-covered fever dream as she moves forward and up, counting down the numbers until she's in front of her door. 213. Enya has her beat there. Oh, sorry. Enya has beat her there. Enya has beat her there. Playful glint in her eyes, folded cloth and lanyard in hand. She waves. No new student is complete without a corny lanyard and an ugly shirt. Laughing, Zora thumbs her key in and turns, pushing the door open with a deep breath to see the lights already on and a short mahogany-skinned girl folding clothes into a drawer. Long curly hair falls down her back in coils. She turns at the sound of the door. The moment Zora sees her, the room silent but for the creaking of door hinges, she goes to introduce herself despite the distant, narrowed eyes. But Enya, beside her, steps forward. At the movement, her new roommate's eyes widen. Corners of her lips lift into a smile as she goes to speak. Enya has her beat. You bitch! And that is the end of chapter 1. Apparently this is, I'm going to read it a little bit here. Holding Up the Sun. This is revamped. This story is a piece of work. It's a lot, but it's fun and the characters and plot are so worth it. Changed a lot since my first time posting. If you read it then, let me know what you think now. If this is your first time, I want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead over to Wattpad and definitely give Token Black Girl some, or rather Che, some of what your thoughts on what her first chapter, or at least the book is about. All right, well, that is it for first chapters with Holding Up the Sun. You can definitely check out more of Che's work on Wattpad. Just follow the links, and you can also follow her on social media. I just had a link there, but yeah, the links are definitely in the description. Go down there. So that's all for tonight. Thank you. Don't forget to click the like button down there and subscribe if you want to listen to me read some more of these first chapters. I'll be covering more stories from Black authors for the rest of the month, but you can also find the reading list on my profile and on Wattpad under Celebrate Black Stories. I update 5 days a week and there's always something new to find. Well, actually, for this whole month, it's going to be every day. Anyway, happy reading.
My love is like a flower, trying to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.